given to panic. Oh, I think I might have done a little wee.
Here's a more sloppy, unscripted video for you. Hello. So this was just going to be a video where I kind of rambled about the different like enemy designs of Killing Floor. But I figured, okay, well, you know, to justify even making a video like this, I'd probably have to talk about more. So I'm just going to talk about my thoughts around Killing Floor as a whole. So Killing Floor 3 got me into Killing Floor as a franchise. Like I'd known of the games for a few years, or for a while. I've known of these games for years. I've seen plenty of Killing Floor 1, I've seen bits of Killing Floor 2. I decided to give them a go after the KF3 beta, because I really enjoyed the beta despite the problems. And the game got delayed until, when did it come out? May, I think? It's been a couple months since its release, so I think this video is a bit overdue. I've given KF1 and 2 a go. I should probably play mod as well. Bits I did like about at least KF2. I'll use KF2 as the primary example, but like for comparison. I think the map visuals were stunning. I think all of the different maps looked fantastic. They had a really good kind of clear direction for the maps artistically, and they were designed. They're all designed fairly well as well. They're all very fun. They flow quite well. A lot of the Zed designs are really good. I do like them. There's things I don't particularly like, and these are more nitpicks, and I'll compare them to KF3 like shortly. But overall, the Zeds are f***ing awesome, right? The weapon selection after all these years is fantastic. Foster is Foster, so he's funny and he's British. So there you go. As a game, it very much feels like it's from, because I think it came out 2016, I believe. It feels like something from 2012 in a way culturally, and that's not a bad thing. But it really feels at home with a lot of my my childhood classics like TF2 and different Source Engine games, for example. It really feels like something from 2010 Steam or like late 2000 Steam, and that's good. I like that. I think it has a really good vibe to it. So to fast forward, okay, so here's Killing Floor 3. A lot of the criticisms were that, well, for example, environments didn't look particularly great before they reworked certain things. I think a lot of them look quite good now. There was a rework to there's the streets map. I forgot the name of it, but they reworked that visually. It was just set in the day during the beta. It looked fine. Could have looked better. It looks fantastic now. Like they really did a proper art pass for a lot of extra things. They did some better. They improved some of the animation work for the Zeds especially. KF3 as a game, I think gameplay wise, it's something that I can get behind the gameplay more than I could with like KF1 and 2, for example. They're a little too slow for me, but I do understand that that's the point, especially with KF1. But I think KF3's movement's in a really good spot. I think the gunplay is quite good. I do enjoy it a bit more than KF2, for example. Now melee combat is my bread and butter in this game. Melee combat is fantastic. The dismemberment and the gore and the impact, it all feels fantastic. I think this game really hits its strides when it comes to melee combat. I think that's one of the highlights. And it's one of the reasons why I keep returning. In games, when you're designing the different design elements, the world, I think environment design was one thing I think the second game does do a bit better than the third game. I do like that for the use of color, a lot of the environments in the third game, when it comes to lighting, so everything's quite desaturated, but the colors really pop from lighting. You've got these really strong reds and blues and greens and purples in some of the maps. As well as these, you have these more kind of dormant hues that like cast onto the map. I believe the Convoy map I think it's called Convoy. That map has a nice kind of early morning, late afternoon, or like evening sun casting onto the map. I love lighting like that, and I think it looks quite good. But I do think the second game has the third game beat currently when it comes to the environments. The environments in the third game are quite good, but when it comes to the colors and how populated with different assets the maps are, I do think the second game has the third game beaten there. But one of the things I 100% prefer in Killing Floor 3, and it was the thing that got me into the franchise, which, I mean, look, I'm a COD Zombies fan, so I thought I would have gotten into this years ago, but the primary thing I wanted to talk about in this video. If you've watched my videos, you know that I'm very much interested in enemy design in games, and I think this game has the best enemy design in the franchise, personally. I know a lot of people disagree with that. I remember seeing people saying that, oh, it was quite comparable to like Doom, for example. But there's a few things there's a few reasons as to why I kind of like that. I genuinely think, as the title says or the thumbnail says or whatever, they're gnarly. They're gruesome. There's a lot of stuff I really like here, and I'm just going to get into everything in a moment. Every enemy, for the most part, really stands out visually while still having this unified design. And in the lore, Horzine at this point is all-out evil, and Nightfall is established to combat them. You've got Horzine are constructing these horrific war creatures and selling them to the highest bidder for different purposes like riot control. I guess the Clots are a good place to start with. You know, I love this design. It looks very goofy in a way. It reminds me, like, the eyes remind me of something like the Engineer from TF2. And then like the Clot is one of the best designs in my opinion when it comes to showing that these are purposely manufactured monsters created to serve a purpose, to be sold to the highest bidder, to serve in combat or, you know, whatever, for whatever purpose. And the Clots have they have enhanced vision. I'd assume the Clots have advanced vision, but they have all these implants. They have these massive claws instead of natural fingers, and I just think they look fantastic. And then you look at the cyst, and in the lore, I'm not too sure about Killing Floor 2, but in the lore for Killing Floor 3, well, the cyst was meant to be a more cost-effective variant of the Clot, used to just kind of bolster forces or whatever. It has less implants. It looks more frail. It looks more weaker, and obviously there's a very specific design choice. I'm not going to say it specifically. I'm not going to say what it is in particular. But just look at its face. I love that. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, but I love that. I also like that they have a ranged attack as well. They have like a spit attack. So that does distinguish them from the Clots that are entirely melee focused, and they do like a leap at you sometimes as well. But yeah, no, there are definitely other examples too of where Tripewire Studios has actually like incorporated this idea that these are manufactured weapons of war. There are, you know, it has been incorporated very heavily into a lot of the other design. For example, with the Impaler, this big monstrosity, rhino monstrosity with like a gorilla rhino styled thing with a big blade, big retractable, massive, like Final Fantasy styled, like Dragon Slayer from Berserk sword blade thing, and it's designed to destroy tanks. And they really convey quite well with some of the designs, or like most of the enemy designs, what they're trying to achieve here. I think the second game did a pretty good job with stuff like that. For example, the Scrake I always thought even in the first game, looked very insidious in the earlier games. It was always this idea that, well, they're these big these butchers essentially with their chainsaw. They've got the apron to show that. And the third game very much takes that. It's a bit on the nose with the Scrake design, where it's okay. Well, it has an apron, but it's armor now, and it's attached to the Scrake. I do kind of like that. They're very exaggerated with a lot of the designs. You look at the bloat, for example, it's very clearly, like, with you look at the bloat from the earlier games, for example, it just looks like a fat zombie. With this, it looks like it really looks like it's been biologically altered to just be bigger, not just fat. And it's also shown with, like, with its like bile attack it does, where it has the expanding sack on its back, and I think it's really gross. Same with like you look at the Gorfast as well. It's cybernetically altered. They're all cybernetically altered for the most part. You look at the Gorfast and it's very evident of that. And I love the massive blades, the comically large blades. Again, one design I'm actually not too sure on is the Husk. I do like the design, but I'm not sure if it's like I kind of prefer the older designs. Like, for example, the second game's design, purely because it's more colorful and it's kind of more indicative of this being a flamer enemy. But I still think they do a pretty good job with it. KF3's version of the Siren's easily my favorite, with like the retractable head, and gameplay wise, it has some better defense mechanisms too. It holds its own better compared to the earlier games, and I think that's pretty good. This game has my favorite flesh pound as well. Again, I love the cybernetically augmented look. I'm a Doom fan. We get a lot of that. I really love that that's the direction they went in for this game. It was an instant kind of hook for me. And the Flesh Pound was obviously one of the first Zeds they showed. And I love the retractable, kind of extendable gauntlets or like hammers it has. That's really cool. It opens it up to have some more attack variety beyond it just being entirely melee focused. Now it has a bit more range. Oh yeah, I forgot about the Scrake as well. It has a hook. It has a hook akin to something like the Panzer. And again, like with the weapons, I love that the chainsaw is just that comically big. Same with the claw. Like all the weapons are so big, so beefy. I love its mask as well, and I love what its face looks like underneath the mask once you destroy that extra armor. And yeah, I really need to look into this, but there is some lore for a specific group of enemies that I haven't talked about yet. And it delves into how Horzim was experimenting on a substance or like a virus called the Mire, and they were using the Mire to create even more monstrosities, even more Zeds. You know, if you look at the Crawler in the earlier games, they have darker skin, they're more humanoid, and they're very spidery, and I think that was a really cool design. But then you've got the Killing Floor 3 design, and I think the only way I can really describe this as being very very troglodyte-y, I guess. Cave dwelling. I love this thing. It's horrific. It's such a violating design, and it still retains the more spidery elements, the arachnid elements. It's disgusting. It is genuinely disgusting. I love it. I really love the different skin tones that they use in the game, the different kind of greys and whites, and again, I think that kind of helps to. Those are quite strong tones. It's a good use of color, so I think it does a good job of kind of distinguishing in gameplay what certain enemies are. Like if you look at a Clot as opposed to Assist, well, Clots have darker, they have like a more kind of grey tone, while Assists have a more like natural white, like peachy tone. And then you look at the Crawler Larva as well, the baby crawlers. Absolutely nasty, really grey. They look very translucent in a way, like they've just been born, because in gameplay they are birthed from something, and we'll be getting to what that is in a moment. But yeah, no, the crawlers, if I'm not wrong, are like related to the kind of with the Mire stuff. It is all kind of linked together. Sickening. It is vile. I love it. But with that being said, okay, so now it's time to talk about I think the Queen Crawler. This is a good time to talk about the Queen Crawler. You take a crawler and you make it even bigger, and it's absolutely grotesque. And it's a neat boss fight too. And it births the baby crawlers. I don't know what they were thinking when they designed these things. They're sickening. They're vile. I love them. And this is the thing with, I think this game's art design, at least for the enemies, just goes above and beyond from what they've done previously, because they really go all out with how gross they can make these things. And I think the best examples of gross are the Maya Clot and Maya Assist, as they're called. I mean, just look at them. They're covered in boils and growths, and it's actually sickening. I wouldn't be surprised if people have looked at these and genuinely felt sick. And I mean, I guess that's kind of the point, but it really kind of delves into the more like, okay, this is, we're not just manufacturing, we're not just manufacturing war machines. We're playing God, and we're biochemically engineering these things too. And then that's how you get the Mire enemies, and they're truly disgusting. And I love with the cyst as well, the Mire cyst, the face is always retracted, so you do just constantly see that it's such an abhorrent mess that it just cannot retract forward. Like it's just so absurdly disgusting and infected, I guess, that it just isn't capable of covering it anymore, I guess. I don't really know how to describe them. They're horrific. I adore these designs. It's the thing that got me into this game. And in gameplay, the Mire enemies come from I guess, the final enemy of this game, so far at least, the Chimera. This very crustacean looking, nasty, disgusting. I describe a lot of things as nasty and disgusting, but this horrible, very, very cosmic Cthulhu-styled enemy. And they were talking in a video document thing recently. I think it was at PAX. In one of the upcoming maps, there is a creature that's frozen in ice that can be described as a cosmic threat. and it shares a lot of the same design principles as the Chimera. And when you get to phase 2 of the Chimera fight, it breaks off all of the armor. And I remember originally there was a trailer where they showed the phase 2 Chimera, and I remember thinking, oh, that's like that's a different enemy from the Chimera. It's not, but visually it does look quite distinct because you get to see its arms, and it's just, the arms are just human arms. It's horrid, and in gameplay it can stretch them out to grapple itself forward. It's fucking grotesque. It's so... Oh, I love body horror. I mean, look, I'm a COD Zombies fan, but like body horror is so interesting to me. I think biology stuff is really cool. It's not like I can necessarily talk in depth about biology, but it is interesting to me. And I just think this game, it absolutely delivers on that. Now, we've gotten a look at what's coming next. They're bringing back the Stalker from prior games. She looks fantastic. I think that's a very interesting way to kind of take that design. Whereas everything is overtly grotesque in this game for the most part, other than like some of the bigger, more armored enemies like the Impalers, the Fleshbounds, the Scrakes, for example. Their design philosophy for the Stalker is that they want her to remain quite feminine, and they were looking into like mythology, and they were taking inspiration from succubi, like succubuses, for her design. And I think that's a really good way to kind of take that, considering what her role as an enemy is, that she's invisible, and then she gets in close, and then she appears to attack. So I think that's a really good direction to take that. I do wish the Stalker was there at launch, given that it is a returning enemy, but it is what it is. Okay, here's like an extra bit I wanted to add. So I think KF2's bosses are really, they're really good. They have some amazing designs, and they're all based on, or most of them are based on specific universe characters like Hans Volter and the Patriarch and the Matriarch. Like they have these defined characters, and I think that's great. But my personal preference for enemies or like bosses in games like this is that they go down the KF3 kind of route. They go down the Killing Floor 3 route, where the bosses are mass-produced, for example. They have identity, obviously, but they can be replicated, or they make sense to show up multiple times. I do like having defined characters as bosses, but what I've always found more interesting is when they are a creature that could be, or something that could be observed multiple times. So, for example, the Impalers, well, those are a mass-produced weapon of war, and that's why I find them interesting. Similar with the Queen Crawlers and the Chimera. These aren't individual characters that have been, for example, like cloned over and over. These are mass-produced, essentially. And some people might think that's completely boring, and I totally get it. But that's just personally what I find interesting. I find that more interesting than having a dedicated character. Not to say that having a dedicated character for a boss fight is a bad thing. No, I do love that. But in the context of Killing Floor 3, with why these enemies even exist in the first place, I think this works better. I do like the more serious tone of this game, which can be seen in the art style as well, with the more desaturated colors, and with the more serious and more like focused artistic design for the enemies, for example. Taking heavy inspiration from something like Doom, where they're really implementing the more cybernetic elements into everything. Yeah, I believe that's everything I wanted to talk about. Overall, I'm a big fan of Killing Floor now. I'm a big KF3 fan especially, and I've enjoyed my time with the older games too. And I am looking forward to see what ends up happening with this game in the future. I hope it has a really good, prosperous life cycle. Just like the second game did, just like the previous games did. But I think on the art direction front for the enemies, they've absolutely nailed it. I'm really excited to see what else they end up coming up with, and I'll keep an eye on the game going forward. I've had a lot of fun with it. Me again, real quick. I'm sick. I've had a terrible past week. Possibly one of the worst in my entire life. But this video was meant to come out closer to the Harvester one. I just thought it'd be a nice extra little thing that I just wanted to pull out. I've had a list of videos I've been wanting to work on for a while, so I'm just kind of chipping through that list. But next is another more lore-centric video, one of the more like serious lore-read ones. Which is one of those is the first one of these commentary videos that I did not too long ago. And a couple of you seem to like that, so that'll be what I'm doing. But while I'm working on them, I do want to do more little videos like this, just more rambly ones where I just talk about stuff I like. But there are more serious lore read ones on the way. It wasn't a one and done with that first video, don't worry. If you are worried. I don't think anyone's really worried, but if you are, no, don't worry about that. There will be more of those, so, yeah. I sound like shit. I'm just listening to the audio and I sound fucking terrible. Oh, this really was the worst time to get sick, but, you know, it happens, I guess. Yeah, a lot of bad stuff in the week now. And now I'm ill, so that doesn't help. So this video really got pushed back by like a week or two, when it should have been out ages ago. Oh, but anyways, I will see you later. Make sure to brush your teeth before bed. Before you go to bed, brush your teeth and jump up and down on the bed 50 times. If you don't do this, the scary Grinch will come and ruin your Christmas. And you don't want that, do you? Don't let him ruin Christmas. Please, don't let him ruin Christmas!